Not everyone should write a novel. Granted, most of the people who fall into that category are people who don't want to write novels or don't want to write fiction. It's my personal and professional mission to make writing novels as accessible as possible. I mean, that's why I make this content. But sometimes the answer to the question, should I write a novel, is no. Not yet. If you're new here, hi, I'm Katri, I'm your new writing bestie, and this is Protagonist Crafts, the place for people who are kind of obsessed with that whole writing thing. But before we talk about the 5 signs that you're not ready yet to write a novel, let's be clear about what we're actually talking about here. So when I talk about writing novels in my content, I mean writing a novel with the goal of publishing it, whether that is traditional publishing or self-publishing. Generally, just like sharing your story with the world and having people pay for it, possibly. So if you're just writing for fun, none of this actually applies to you, and I don't know why you're watching this video. Go write something. It's great. Everyone should write for fun. What you're going to get from this video is most likely the realization that you actually already know more than you realized, and you don't need to wait to have a bigger vocabulary or to have that degree for you to write the novel that you've been dreaming of writing. And if you find yourself falling into the category of people who shouldn't write a novel yet, there's help for you in this video as well that's going to help you prepare for this massive journey of writing a novel. I'd say it's highly unlikely that you're going to watch this video and be like, oh, this person said, this Katri said that I shouldn't ever write a novel. I'm pretty sure that's not what I'm saying in this video, but then again, that could be valuable insight to have about yourself and about your life goals. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a value judgment to be like, no, this person shouldn't write a novel. They don't have what it takes. People aren't born writers. I mean, yes, some people are talented, but you can also become a great writer without talent if you just put in some effort. There isn't any kind of a DNA test that you can take to make sure that you really are cut out to be a writer. You can just decide to do what it takes to do that. So anyway, I hope that was enough disclaimers. Let's begin. The first sign that you're not ready to write a novel is that you don't actually know what your story is about. So let's say you have kind of an idea, but is this a romance novel or is it maybe dystopian fiction? You kind of do need to know that. Are you writing for children, teens, or adults? And is this actually a novel or is it a memoir? Is this a self-help book for desperate housewives? Knowing that is literally the bare minimum. The tone of your story is also something you need to know from the very beginning, and you need to stick to it. So is your story serious but hopeful? Or is it a sad story with a few humorous moments? You don't want to be giving your readers a whiplash, and they do need to get what you promised you give them. Figure that out before you start writing, or be prepared to rewrite a lot, actually the entire thing. You should also have a clear idea of who's the protagonist of your story. Or again, you could just rewrite the entire thing from multiple points of view or with multiple protagonists. But again, be prepared to do those experiments. There's a lot that could be said about Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. I'm not going to say that stuff here, but what I did read that when he was writing the novel, he initially wrote it from different characters' points of view. Like he didn't know at first, like, who was the protagonist of this story. And yeah, you can do that, but just be prepared that that's a lot of work. It's a lot easier to just figure out who is the protagonist of your story, and if there are multiple protagonists, who those people are, and who perhaps is the most main character of all the main characters. The main reason for having to know is that your protagonists' wants and needs, their goals, and their past wounds and stuff, they are the meat and bones of your entire story. If you don't know that stuff, then you don't truly know what your story is about. And really, it's fine if you don't know it now. Figure it out before you start writing. I have loads of resources about planning and outlining your story, so make use of that. You're going to make the whole process so much easier for yourself when you know this stuff before you start writing. And yeah, like you can explore your story by writing these different snippets and like just experimenting with different characters and settings and stuff. But that is valuable stuff to do, and I recommend doing it. But it just, when you think of writing a novel, just this process of, okay, first draft here, and then I keep writing drafts until it's finished. It goes outside that process. It's preparing for that process. So don't let the novel writing process perhaps be your experiment there. Do the experimentation first, and then when you get clarity, you're ready to start writing the novel. Do you need to have clarity about everything? No, but you do need to know where you're going and what you're working with. If your story is a sprawling mess that spans over 1,000 pages, then you're making the editing process far more difficult for yourself than it needs to be. It's difficult enough as it is. Don't just do yourself a favor and keep it a little more reined in before you begin. This video was originally a blog post, and most comments, I would say, were along the lines of, oh, well, that's nice. I didn't realize I was ready, but it turns out I am. Thank you. But then there were some comments that were like saying, like, why are you discouraging people? People don't need to have this stuff figured out. It's mean to say that they should have this figured out. Why are you discouraging people from writing? And it's just like, in the grand scheme of all my content, am I really discouraging people from writing, or am I giving them the tools to write? But also, I would personally find it a lot more discouraging, like if I was doing something new, when someone would be like, oh, you'll figure it out, just start, you'll be fine. And then halfway through, I would find myself like not fine and just not being able to figure it out. I would just think like, oh no, there's something wrong with me. I'm just not cut out for this. So I don't want this to happen to people. I don't want this to happen to you. I want to give you the tools so that you realize that there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to figure out, and there isn't anything wrong with you if you can't just figure it out on the fly, and if you can't just improvise a novel in one sitting or something else. So I'm encouraging you by giving you the tools so that you're actually able to do it successfully. And the second sign that you might not be quite yet ready to start writing a novel is that you think you already know everything there is to know about writing. But hey, maybe you already knew all that. Maybe you knew all that about planning your novel and what you need to have figured out before you start writing. And maybe you've just always been good at writing. Maybe you've always got compliments on it. That's a great place to start from, but that isn't all. Because the thing is, a writer's work is never done. And it doesn't just mean that there will always be new stories to write or that you could have always done more research about something, but it also means that you will never, ever be perfect at everything that goes into writing a novel. And some commenter took this to mean that like you need to be perfect, you need to know everything before you can start. But it's so like, am I saying that? Am I? The awareness that you don't have it all figured out is everything that's needed. Have a growth mindset about your writing. If you're a perfectionist, you might find the idea a bit depressing that you will never be able to write a perfect book. But the great news, the fantastic news, is that you have an almost infinite capability of learning and improving. Now that is encouraging. The only thing that is standing between you and becoming a better writer is thinking you already know everything. So if you think that your first drafts are so flawless you don't need to edit, or even if you do edit your stories, but you think that editors, they're just being mean, they want to change your book for the worst, you know the best, then it might just be that you're not quite yet ready to write a novel. A little reality check might be timely, because yes, I'm sure you're fantastic. You're a great writer. Go you, but you're still not perfect. I bet even your favorite authors have room for improvement, and that's okay. That isn't like a value judgment. I don't know why people can't handle the idea of, hey, you could do this better. It's like, oh no, I'm being insulted. I need to attack back at this person. Just like, it's just life that we can always improve. There's no need to develop all this drama around it. So take this as an opportunity. I don't want you to get caught off guard by feedback and have you develop all these stories around it and what it means. It's just like, your writing could always be improved, and there are people who can help you improve it, and that's okay. That's great. There's no need to try to be the perfect, flawless person that will never get any kind of criticism. That's impossible, and that is just very silly. Why are you living a life like that? Just be grateful for any room for improvement that you might have and make use of it. And the third sign that you're not quite yet ready to write a novel is something that we already maybe sort of brushed against. brushed against, that isn't the right word. Well, whatever. If you are not ready to get any kind of critique, then you're not ready to publish. Again, if you want to write just for fun, then go and do that. You don't need to watch the rest of this video. But the truth is, when your book is out there, people will have opinions. And if you look up any of your favorite authors' novels, you're bound to find 1-star reviews of it. Pride and Prejudice, 1-star reviews. Secret History, 1-star reviews again. Does that make those stories any less valuable? Absolutely not. And in general, I know there are always exceptions, but generally speaking, people aren't making these reviews out of spite. They're not trying to be mean, they're just sharing their experience. And there's no contesting someone's experience of your book or saying that they're wrong. That was their experience and they're sharing it with the world and they have the right to do that. It's also good to remember that reviews are not for the writer, they're for other readers. Do you want to write a novel that everyone in the world will find palatable? Well, chances are that you will end up writing a novel that is so bland that nobody will love it. I'm guessing that you don't want to waste your time writing a novel that is meh at best. You are far better than that. Let me just reiterate. It's a good thing that somebody doesn't like your novel. And don't get me wrong, you're allowed to have feelings about any feedback or critique you get on your work. That is completely normal and human. But if you think that bad reviews are inherently malicious and that you want to control how people talk about your work, then you're not ready to share that work with the world. I've even seen authors reporting reviews that they don't agree with, and that is just so insecure and cringy. Don't be that person. That is so embarrassing. And not all critique is just a question of taste. Like I said earlier, you should let people help you make your writing better. Will they always be right? Well, not necessarily, but there are 2 ways to approach any feedback that you get on your work. So maybe they're correct, and then you can make adjustments to your writing if, these adjustments align with the goals that you have for your writing. So I used this example in another video. But if, say, a person who loves crime novels reads your romance novel and says there's too much kissing, then that might be true for them, but it might not be applicable to your goals. You want to write a romance novel for people who like romance novels. So again, might be true, but not something that you need to act on. But if a romance fan says that your sex scenes were just a little flat, then that is something that you might want to consider, especially if multiple people are saying the same thing. But it might also just be that what they're saying, it doesn't apply to your writing, or it just isn't true, or maybe they misunderstood something, or maybe they just don't read your genre and don't understand it. Then you're, free to ignore that and you could just keep on living with your life. No need to develop this drama around it. You are writing for your readers, so you might want to listen to them. If you find many of them saying the same thing, it might just be something valuable that you need to address. You really don't want to be the author dismissing well-written, thoughtful reviews about your work, pointing out problematic elements in your story. Just because you don't want to admit being in the wrong or admit being fallible. I have seen this in action as well, and it's not pretty. Again, cringy. Don't be that person. And hey, maybe you're scared. Maybe you're scared of having your feelings hurt. Tough. Your feelings will be hurt 1,000,000 times in your lifetime. It means nothing except that you're alive and you're human. So it's going to happen. Don't fight it. If you don't like that reality at all, you don't want to accept it, then maybe you're just not ready to write a novel that you could share with the world. And the 4th sign that you might not be quite yet ready to write a novel is that you want to finish writing as fast as possible. You just want to get over with it as quickly as you can so that you can say that, hey, I finished writing a novel. It only took me 6 months. That is very silly. Being able to finish things and seeing the results of your work is nice. But if you want to write a great book and not just a book, I guess, then you can't afford to rush it. And yeah, a quick and dirty first draft it's a fine thing to have. It depends on how we like to work and how our brains work. But I'm just, to be clear, talking about the entire writing process. So from starting writing to the final draft. Writing a novel is going to take as long as it's going to take. And if you've never written a novel before, you might just not realize what a massive undertaking it is. There are so many steps, And if you're doing them for the first time, well, they might just take longer than if you were well versed in the world of writing novels. The entire journey has all these twists and turns that you can't entirely anticipate beforehand, and you need to be prepared for that. And take it from my personal experience, even if you had a thorough outline, you might realize that, hey, this thing, it just doesn't work. I could do this better. And then you would end up, extending your outline, your deadline, so that, maybe something that you thought you finished in 2.5 years, you're still working on 5 years later. That's never happened to me. And yes, deadlines in the publishing world, they are a thing. But also, sometimes they get pushed back when the book just isn't ready to come out yet. Readers will be able to see if your book is rushed. But hey, some people, they just want to write as fast as possible. Why am I discouraging them from doing that? Well, obviously, it's because I'm mean and evil. Or, I don't know, could it be that I just want people to really put in the effort into their work when they're trying to write novels that they want to publish? And maybe I want them to do themselves justice by doing it properly instead of rushing it. This is a creative process, all right? You're not like painting a house or something. And could it be that I just want people to have proper expectations about the novel writing process? So that they're not like, oh, I want to write a novel in 6 months. And then, they're at 7 months and they're still not finished. And they're like, oh no, I have failed. They have not failed, all right? They just had wrong expectations. So don't expect to be super duper quick, and don't approach writing a novel as something that you need to get over with as soon as you can. I mean, I really can't think of any good reasons to rush a creative process, but if you've got one, do let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear about it. If instead of wanting to write a book fast, you want to write a book faster, you do need to shoot for efficiency. That could mean having a good plan so that you don't end up wasting your writing time just staring at the screen and just completely, blanking out and losing your will to live. You could also actually use your writing time instead of, scrolling through writer memes on Instagram. I see you. I do have content on how to write efficiently, but essentially it boils down to this. Identify how you're wasting time and stop doing that stuff. Were you waiting for me to have some kind of a magic trick that's going to change everything? Sorry, there isn't any. Are you prioritizing your writing, or are you just hoping to do it soon or, one day? If so, you need to stop doing that and actually make time for it so that you can actually, do it. You won't finish writing a novel that you never start. And don't buy into the thing that you need to have 8 hours every day to work on your novel. People who are given 8 hours every day, they're generally not using that on writing their novels unless they're professional writers who know what they're doing. But people with loads of time who want to write a novel, I have noticed, don't necessarily use that time. So if you have little time to work on your stories, great, use that time. I do have a video about that as well, so maybe check it out. But don't think that you need these massive chunks of time in order to write. Just use the time that you already have. And the final sign that you're not quite yet ready to write a novel that you could publish traditionally or self-publish is that you don't want to edit your writing. Outlining your novel might be optional, but editing it definitely isn't. People who are completely new to writing might think that you could just write a novel from start to finish once and then call it a day. Well, maybe check for typos and, but just like that is completely wrong. And if you thought that, I'm so sorry. But at least, the more you know. Actually, editing your story is, generally speaking, going to take a lot longer than writing the first draft. And that is something that many beginner writers don't want to hear, but it is true. And yeah, there is the exception of like maybe you took 20 years to write your first draft and only 5 years to edit it. Just a completely different situation, all right? But really, it's not a reason to be discouraged. It's great news. You have so many opportunities to improve your writing and to make it work. And when I talk about editing, I also mean rewriting and revising. And those are things that you need to do yourself. You can't outsource them to someone else. And yet, developmental editor can help you with your overall story. but they're only going to give you suggestions. They're not going to write your story for you. And a while ago, I got a comment on a slightly different post that I was just talking BS, and you should just be able to write a story and then let the experts edit it. There was no reason for you to learn how to do it. And it's just like, do you have any idea how costly that would be? And even professional editors, as in experts without the snide quotation marks, they can't do all the work for you. And I want to help you do the work. I'm here to make writing more accessible, not less so. And that's why I'm giving you the tools for you to do this stuff for yourself as much as you can. And yes, if you're getting published, you will end up working with a professional editor, but you won't get that far until you've made your story as best as it can be. Yes, all of this, it is a big learning process. All right. The point is that you need to realize this and be prepared for it. Or otherwise, you're just not yet ready to write a novel. Yet. If you are, in fact, ready to write that novel, I've got loads of help for you in my channel and in my blog, in my Etsy shop. And just check out the useful links in the description, and I will see you in another video.